In my previous lesson, I talked about reinforcement and punishment. Reinforcement is entirely different from punishment. In reinforcement, some behavior is strengthened. In punishment, some behavior is weakened. This is the main difference between reinforcement and punishment. Punishment, as you know, is an event that follows a behavior and decreases its occurrence again in the future. Now I remember the law of effect. According to this law, if a behavior is followed by certain present experiences, that behavior will be retained, it will be followed in the future. Otherwise, it will be avoided. That means if this behavior is followed by some unpleasant experiences, that behavior is avoided. And this law effect has influenced B.F. Skinner. In operant condition, what do we see? The operant behavior is followed by some reinforcing stimulus. And that reinforced stimulus strengthens that operant behavior. But in operant behavior, the behavior is not involuntary but voluntary. In classical conditioning, we've seen three very important processes: extinction, stimulus generalization, and stimulus discrimination. We see in classical conditioning the dog salivates at the sound of the ring of the bell to which it has been conditioned. If this ring of the bell is not followed by the unconditioned stimulus many times, what happens? What will happen? This behavior gets weakened. It will diminish. This effect is called extension. This kind of extension can be seen in operant conditioning. In operant conditioning, as I already said, the organism operates on the environment to produce a desirable consequence. If this desirable consequence is not reinforced many times, what will happen? That operant behavior will diminish. It will get weakened. That means in operant condition 2, there will be extension, then stimulus generalization. In classical conditioning, the dog is conditioned to the conditioned stimulus. In other ways, it salivates at the sound of the ring of the bell. The same hungry dog may salivate at the sound of the doorbell or church bell. After some time, it understands this sound of the ring of the bell is different from the sound of the doorbell or the church bell. This is called stimulus discrimination. The same thing can be seen in operant conditioning. For example, a child works hard in class. The teacher praises you. And this praising may make him work hard on his home assignment. That means the same response to similar stimuli. Working hard. In the same way, stimulus discrimination can also be seen in operant conditioning. For example, the child doesn't enter the room of the teacher because he is in a bad mood. When he is in a good mood, the child enters the room of the teacher. That means he understands the difference between bad mood and good mood. That means stimulus discrimination. Then timing. Then in classical degree we've seen the conditioned stimulus must be followed by the unconditioned stimulus. The gap between these two should not be too long. If it is too long, what will happen? There will be no condition. The same way, the operant behavior, the operant response must be immediately followed by the reinforcing stimulus. Otherwise, there will be no reinforcement. The gap between the operant behavior and the reinforcing stimulus should not be too long. There's a very important difference between classical conditioning and operant conditioning. As we've seen, in classical conditioning, first the stimulus, then the response. SR bond. Stimulus, response. Stimulus, response. But in operant conditioning, as already said, the organs operate on the environment to have a desirable stimulus. That means here the behavior is followed by the reinforcing stimulus. This is the main difference between classical conditioning and operant conditioning. Now, I would like to say something about the educational implications of operant conditioning. 1. The operant conditioning gives importance to the environment, environmental stimuli, the stimuli in the environment. There must be a very favorable atmosphere in education institutions and classrooms. Nobody wants to have unpleasant experiences. Everybody likes pleasant experiences. There must be a very favorable atmosphere. A pleasant atmosphere. There should be no unpleasant atmosphere. That means there must be an atmosphere of beauty and laughter in education institutions and classrooms. It is better for the teacher to avoid undesirable emotions. Instead of these undesirable emotions, there must be love, affection, mercy, kindness, etc. Such desirable emotions. However, stimuli must be avoided. There should be no fear in the child. There should be no anxiety in the child. Fear and anxiety will adversely affect his learning. Hence, these two things must be avoided. A very good atmosphere, a very happy atmosphere, only pleasant experiences. 2. Reinforcement. We already seen the operant behavior is immediately reinforced by a desirable stimulus immediately. That means when a child does something good, it has to be reinforced at that time. It should never be postponed. Suppose a child passes the examination in first class. His good behavior has to be reinforced at that moment. He should be immediately reinforced. His good behavior. It should never be postponed. If it is postponed, there will be no effect on the behavior of the child, on him, no effect. If a child answers a question very well in the classroom, the teacher has to strengthen it immediately. It should never be postponed. Immediately. The immediate reinforcement. That factor has to be stressed. In order to reinforce the behavior of the child. He can use many incentives. For example, textbooks, writing books. The child may be provided with textbooks, writing materials, money. If the child is poor, such incentives can be used. Praise, a very beautiful reinforcer, positive reinforcer. All those things can be done by a teacher. As what he said, the teacher must love the child. He should be loving and affectionate. For program instruction, I think you studied this thing. Program is a self-instruction. As the name implies here, the child studies for himself. No teacher, no tutor. The learning materials have been programmed. In a learning material, there will be many ideas. And these ideas are arranged in some logical order, from simple to complex, from known to unknown. That means many ideas. These ideas are presented to the child, one after the other. At each stage, only one idea, only one item. Then it is very easy for the child to learn it. At each stage, he is reinforced. There will be no painful experience. There will be no unpleasant experience. At each stage, he is reinforced some pleasant experience. Like this, he goes through all these ideas. He can do it because these ideas have been presented in some logical order. Then it is very easy for him to study. In the end, he studies all the ideas. In other words, he learns the whole learning material. He becomes happy. No painful experience. That means the child can learn without a tutor, a teacher. He will be happy. I think you understood something. Thank you.